wants peace with all their neighbors and will recognize and has recognized all their Arab neighbors. And we hope that that follows, that there's, good results to come out of this.
Yet again, if you're just joining us, you're taking a live look at President Trump. He has entered the Losalli Palace. He is actually shaking hands with a number of dignitaries. About to get underway is the actual state dinner hosted by the Emir of Qatar. This coming, Harley, just hours after earlier today, we learned that President Trump actually had a one-on-one with the Syrian president, a president who at one point put a bounty on President Trump's head. Apparently, the two now playing nice. What say you about that?
Well, President Trump is a practical man. This is the new leadership in Syria, and we're very hopeful it's much better than the old leadership under Assad, which became a proxy of Iran, the main enemy in the Middle East to the United States and America's allies and friends. So we're very hopeful that Syria will make peace with Israel, which it has never done before, will become part of the Abraham Accords, and it will elevate the Middle East to a new level. There'll be extraordinary economic growth and opportunity. I don't think many regions in the world are investing as much as Saudi Arabia and the UAE is in AI, for example, and other areas of technology and in economic development. But they need peace and stability. So if peace and stability is created, it will be a game changer for the people of the Middle East, and it will elevate their standard of living significantly. And countries like Saudi Arabia already have emerged as new world leaders, and they'll only continue to have their stature grown in that arena.
As I continue to look on with regard to President Trump standing next to the Emir of Qatar, it appears the two seem to be very chummy. We also know that earlier this week, the Emir of Qatar said, you know what, Mr. President, you're more than welcome to take one of our Boeing 747s and use that as your next Air Force One. Back here at home in America, lawmakers, at least several on the left, now crying foul, stating that should not be done. Harley, I know you're based in Israel and all things foreign policy, but I'm curious, your take on Qatar actually offering that Boeing 747 jet to be the next Air Force One?
I was afraid you'd ask me that question. Well, there's two ways of looking at this. On the one hand, as we've heard from President Trump, he says it's a gift. America gives gifts all the time. Let's take that gift, and we'll do a full security review of the plane to make sure there's no national security fears. We'll make sure there are no bugs hidden in it, and we'll re-equip it to be Air Force One. And it's the newest and best kind of plane to be a presidential airplane, if you will. That's one way to look at it. On the other hand, it could raise ethical issues, national security issues, that President Trump is being bought, is being seduced. People feel it's inappropriate for a president to accept a gift, especially from a nation that supports Hamas and supports the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood wants to destroy the West. So it's a very dicey issue. And there are a lot of Republican lawmakers that have raised serious concerns about that. Senator Cruz, for example, who's a huge supporter of President Trump, has said he doesn't trust the Qataris, and he's sure that there are things in a plane that are designed to spy on President Trump. And it raises all kinds of questions about other nations that may want to curry favor with the president and give him gifts. But then President Trump countered by saying the gift is not to me, it's to the United States Air Force and the government of the United States. So I guess it depends on how you want to look at that.
Obviously, should that happen, it would take quite some time, years, if you will, in order to outfit that plane with all the security options that one would need in order to protect the president. Really interesting to see how all of that is playing out. Yet again, President Trump standing next to the Emir of Qatar. They are inside the Losalli Palace. The two gentlemen still greeting dignitaries, still awaiting to sit down and, well, break bread, if you will, for the official state dinner. One of many world leaders that President Trump has had the opportunity to meet. Harley, I'm curious for you, what would you deem a successful trip to the Middle East for President Trump once all of this is over?
Well, one, where you get these nations to accept the reality of Israel, which has been a nation since 1947. It's not practical not to recognize Israel. It's a reality. It's there. It's an economic power. It's a military power, and it gets in the way of development of those nations. It will strengthen their relationship with the United States, which is very important to them because they want economic benefits from trade with the United States. They want to be able to deal with the tariff issue in a favorable way, and they would like military protection from their adversaries. So it would be a win-win if they could come to terms and have peace with Israel, which would be Qatar, Syria, and Saudi Arabia. A second good outcome is to have everyone aligned with the view that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, that they have to dismantle their entire nuclear infrastructure. There is no agreement with Iran that could ever be enforceable. It's just impossible to do. You know, already now nuclear material is hidden in 40, 50 places in Iran. Even recently, our intelligence discovered a place that the Iranians have hidden where they're developing nuclear weapons. So trust is not possible with Iran. They don't have the Western concept of honoring an agreement. It's viewed simply for temporary tactical reasons. They'll accept an agreement, but they'll quickly maneuver, lie, and evade, and go on with their program of building a nuclear bomb. So if all the nations that President Trump is meeting with are aligned with the United States and encourage the United States to have zero tolerance towards any enrichment of uranium, that would be an extremely favorable outcome. That's the second one. So those are two that come to mind right away.
Yeah, obviously of concern to both world leaders. As I continue to watch on, it's interesting. Some of the dignitaries end up having more FaceTime with both the Emir of Qatar and President Trump. We've seen this before play out, while the president has actually stood next to the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. When in this position as a dignitary and you're getting a chance to yet again speak to the most powerful man in the world, what do you think those conversations consist of? What are they discussing? What are they talking about?
Well, I think they're talking about Gaza because everybody's kind of scratching their head trying to figure out how we deal with that. But I'll give you what I think is an interesting insight into the thinking and strategy of the leadership of Qatar. You know, when you think of Gaza and the Middle East crisis, almost instinctively, especially Americans, think in terms of solutions. They always say, what's the solution in Gaza? Because everybody tends to kind of go in that direction. But the leadership of Qatar are extremely clever, crafty. They've maneuvered very effectively in double dealing and in dealing with Hamas and in dealing with the United States. And why is that? Because they believe that there is no solution. They believe that they can thrive in chaos and instability. Their strategy is just to make sure that they outmaneuver their rivals and stay on top. So they're unusual in the way they view conflict in the Middle East. They don't think there's a solution. So they feel they're already far ahead of us, where we're locked in to coming up with all kinds of ideas that they feel are never going to work. So they feel they're further advanced in their strategy, and they're just thinking, how do they stay on top? How do they curry favor with their adversaries and allies? How do they keep themselves in this unique position where they could talk to Hamas and have them headquartered in Qatar, and at the same time have a huge American military base there and host the President of the United States? They're masters at double dealing, and we need to know that about this country.
Yet again, very